Hello, I'm Jeff Cavins, and today we're looking at the readings for the 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time. I remember back when I was a Protestant pastor prior to coming back into the Catholic Church, and I was busy preaching on a weekly basis, but I was also busy with counseling and solving problems and disputes, budgets and vision, and all of that. I remember coming up to my wife one day and saying, honey, this job as a pastor would be absolutely dynamite if there weren't people. You see, I saw people as really being an obstacle to my joy in the Lord and my worshiping the Lord. I've heard people also say from time to time, God, yes, people, no. But that's not the way it is in the Bible. We go all the way back to the book of Exodus. In fact, our first reading from Exodus chapter 22 hints on this point, that God delivered his people and brought them out of bondage. And after he did that, he put on their agenda, on their plate, the responsibility to do the same to other people. They had the responsibility to treat the widow and the orphan, those who are hungry, in the same way that God had treated them. What we see in salvation history is that our relationship with God is not just a vertical relationship, just God and me. But the relationship with God is kind of an L shape. It's God and me and you. And you give me an opportunity to express my love of God. Listen to the reading. It's in Matthew chapter 22, the gospel reading, verses 34 through 40. It says, "But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they came together. And one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. 'Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?' And Jesus said to him," and I might add here that most rabbis would have said this, he answers quite correctly. Sounds funny to say that, but he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all of your mind. That is the greatest commandment." And you might say, I agree. And that sounds great. The greatest commandment is to love the Lord. And then he says something else. He says, "And a second is like it." He doesn't say the second. He says, "A second is like it." A second is like it. "You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets." Now, what's he saying there? Well, according to a Jewish traditional way of teaching, he's giving you the greatest commandment to love the Lord, and then he is showing you how you actually do it. He's putting in concrete terms how to actually love the Lord. So if we say, "I love the Lord," then we express that love certainly in praise and worship and going to Mass, but we express that praise by loving one another. In other words, God is expecting us to show him that we love him by the way we treat other people. In feeding the hungry and the orphans, we feed them, and we take care of the widow and those who are disenfranchised. That's how we show our love for God. Now, this is beautiful because this gives you the opportunity, unless you're on some deserted island somewhere, it gives you the opportunity to express your love to God by loving others at work. Let me ask you a question. Right now at work, are there people that are less than lovable? You got an opportunity to love God even at work. You've got an opportunity to love God in your neighborhood. You've got an opportunity to love God in your family by taking the time to love your spouse, to love your children, and lay down your life for them. This is the beautiful thing about the gospel, is that it's not just us and God, the vertical relationship, but it involves every single person that we meet. One great person that did this so well was Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa saw every person that she met as an opportunity to encounter and love God. And I love that. I think that's absolutely great. So your assignment this week is to love God at work, to love God in your neighborhood, and to love God at home. You can love God by loving one another. Let's one another this week.